this lecture by Esha Nagar, the MD, Nepa Asia Pacific APAC. And let me have the pleasure of introducing all of you to this lecture, as well as introducing today's guest of honor. Uh, Isha comes with a great and very illustrious experience. After her MBA from Nirma University, she started working for, she actually worked for three companies. All of them are amazing companies. The first one happens to be Cantor IMRB, and where she started her career as a research manager. She worked for 1 year, 11 months. And after that, she worked for another great company, Nielsen, where she graduated with the first rank as part of manager school, a curated program for first-time managers by Nielsen, and where she worked for about 4 years, and 4 years, 3 months precisely. And since then, she has been working with NEPA in different capacities. She started as a director of client partnerships between 2017 and August 2018, and the member board of governors, board of directors between September 2018 and April 2019. And she became the managing director of Nepa India for 3 years between May 2019 and January 2023. And since January 2023 onward, she has been working and she has been functioning as a managing director of NEPA APAC. And she comes with loads of experience in this space, the content space. In fact, I was just telling her before we began this session, when I looked at her content, the presentation that she's going to show, showcase to all of you, itself, showcases the kind of content that she and her team have been front-ending. Over to you, NEPA, Isha, sorry.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Nagendra, for that very illustrious introduction for me. And I'm so glad to be part of the Leadership Levers lecture series for TimesPro. And welcoming everyone to the session on creator economy, something that is so important to be aware about because it impacts too many sectors and not just the creator and content space. With that, I will just share my screen. If the team from TimesPro could just give me a thumbs up that they can see it all right.
Yes, absolutely. Sure.
Perfect. So let's dive into it. The topic at hand is creator economy, and this is something which is relevant for anyone who's getting started with content marketing, someone who's excited to know about the content landscape, what is the current state of production and platforms. Media and entertainment industry and content has been booming like anything in the last 5 years, something that has also become part of our daily lives. We talk about Instagram Reels almost like every day in our conversations, and thus it would be good to understand what does it mean from a business perspective. With that, I'll go into it. Though Dr. Nagendra has already introduced me, apart from managing the role for NEPA APAC, of course, I'm a co-researcher, given the stints that I've had. I also am a speaker. I love to talk about content. I love to talk about organizations and culture and management in general. I also am a podcaster now. Having advised a lot of clients through NEPA, we definitely wanted to cater to thought leadership through a podcast, through a proper medium of content which could reach the masses and make research inclusive. NEPA is a consumer science firm. We are based out in Sweden. We deliver to our clients insights and data about across categories. So content, of course, is very dear to us because that's one of the key categories that we consult into. But beyond that, our spectrum covers FMCG, media, whatever category under the spectrum that you might have. So let's look at some of the digits for content industry. We're talking data. I have to begin with it. Look at the boom of content in general. If we talk about numbers about the world, we are talking about 4.9 billion plus active internet users. And for India, that's 700 million plus. So about 62% of the world population, and around half of the India population is today internet connected, and more because this is 2021 stats. If you talk about OTT, you would have heard about this term. This is about the streaming players. We currently have a 40 plus OTT player repertoire in India. If you talk about the global ring light market, I wanted to put the statistics. I'm talking about that round continuous ring light that is used to make content. That has seen a compounded annual growth rate of 10% and would continue to expand at this rate till 2030. tells a lot. It's quite telling because if you now just shop around in general trade and modern trade, this is one of the very common consumables that you will find in any stationery or general trade shop in very tiny neighborhoods. Last, talking about video and video generation, we cannot skip the beat on audio content. Global podcast listeners have literally doubled up from 2019 to 2023. And that tells a lot about how the audio industry is booming. This, in a nutshell, tells us that content industry has achieved its due gravitas and is something to be very aware about. If you just take this word content, the literal meaning of it is, of course, it's a form of expression, but it means any material, any piece of information, any data that is presented or conveyed through any form of media, text, image, audio, video, anything that is used to express. With the boom of the internet active users, with the boom of video content, something that has come center stage is content marketing, which is being used by the brands to effect, to drive purpose, to have meaningful conversations, and to form communities. Before diving into content marketing, I would love to take you through a timeline. So be with me. This is the last 5 years and how this content boom that we see, how has that really envisaged? So if you look at 2019 and 2020, this was the time when long form content was center stage. This is also the time when video first became a thing. Video, YouTube, this is something when YouTube was center stage. SEO, which is search engine optimization, this was something that was being used by marketers a lot. Voice searchability was a new thing. Voice searchability in terms of content was a new thing. Integration of voice searchability while creating content was also something that was coming in. Hyper personalization is also something that saw the light of the day in a much wider format in 2019 and 2020. UGC, you would have heard this term, it's user generated content. The kickoff of user generated content started, it was there in bits and pieces, but this is where it came center stage and mainstream. Dial into 2021, this was the time when content communities were being created. This is also the time when the world had seen the pandemic lockdown. And the sense of being together, the sense of being able to converse together for a common purpose is something that was very visible in content. We all have experienced the work from anywhere life, and going live, being on webinars, uh, being video first, it was getting normalized. You would agree with me if I say that being on video was not for everyone. It was not the most comfortable medium for everybody, but this is where it got normalized. So live and webinars became a thing. One thing that was very important was that as the levers were getting strengthened for content quality with better products, better softwares, content experience upgrade started. That means the roots of creating good quality content easily started from here. There was a lot of investment in the market in terms of tools to give that freedom to the creators to create this, and thus experience was the denominator that could be the differentiator in terms of content. This was also the time when artificial intelligence in terms of creating copies, in terms of usage of maybe a proofreading came in. One important piece, we all have also lived through the stage when we were just living the Zoom life. There were webinars continuously happening, not too many on-ground events. So repurposing of content 360, that means across platform, was 2021 for us. I'll take a second on repurposing for the group. I feel that it's a very important term to understand. Repurposing is when you start using the same creative copy in different dimensions for multiple platforms. You don't have to create new for LinkedIn or Instagram or the Zoom video. It would be the same imagery that can be used across platforms. So repurposing content 360 is very important for 2020, very pivotal also. User generated content continued to boom. Last year, 2022, was the epic rise of podcast and video. It took up like anything. Vertical view. You all would be aware when you're clicking pictures these days or taking videos these days, there would be one person in the group who say, let's take a vertical copy. That's because of this device. The dimensions changed and everything needed to be also in vertical. Widescreen was being replaced. Interactive content has been super serious in terms of the ecosystem play from 2022. It has always been there, but with the talks of metaverse, with augmented reality being used for fashion shows, for weddings, for organizing events, more interactive and gaming that we have been even seeing in terms of market research, that is something that had a spike in 2022. Testing and data validation was center stage as well. What do I mean by testing and data validation? Creation, if you would believe, is very expressive. That means sometimes it can be just about what you feel as a gut in terms of expressing. It's great when there was not too much of content in the ecosystem. What do you do when there is so much? When marketing KPIs are being measured in every form of content that you create? Thus, data validation and data backed content marketing was something that the marketers wanted to use. Testing of creative copies in a much more robust way began in 2022 as well. One thing that also continued from 2021 to 2022 and would continue in future was search engine optimization, a better optimization on SEO. 2023, which is the year that we're living now, it's only April, but we already know that at least 4 or 5 themes would still continue to rule in 2023 and beyond. Vertical short form is here to stay. Interactive just gets better. The interactive is the AI, AR, VR piece that I talked about. UGC is mainstream. There is no better value that you can derive. The best form of content is when your own brand ambassadors, your users of the brand, or the employees of an organization, the content that they drive for the brand, that rules supreme. This is also the time when the era of quality over quantity begins. Now that so much has been done to give that muscle to creator economy, and I'll explain that a little bit more as we go ahead. It is all about who gives good quality content. Thus, manufacturing lesser content but quality content is going to be the key. And one thing that will continue to also rule is AI on enabling content. Dr. Nagendra talked about this presentation, and at some point in time, we used to go on the PPT templates and think about design. And there were a group of people who were very good in design in terms of creating presentations, and the other cohort would actually really struggle. But today, you have tools where you can feed in the kind of audience you're talking to, the kind of palette you would like to really go for. Like I used Canva for creating this. It is a machine learning tool that has preset templates. So AI in terms of creation and content is something which will be a big enabler. Moving forward, two big words. In fact, I'll take a pause. Basis this content avatars and the way the timeline has progressed so far, a particular thing has emerged, which is the creator economy. And this word has been talked a lot about. There's a sharp difference between attention economy and creator economy. The attention economy is focused on the competition for people's limited attention. So यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है that you are fighting for that share of viewership circle where you can sort of get the attention of the consumer. The whole focus is on grabbing that. The whole focus is on what should I push so that my content can be watched over something else. The attention economy is also concerned with how to capture and hold people's attention is largely driven by the need to promote products. It's marketing first. We want to push a service. What should I talk? What should be my SLA? What are the ideas for the broad audience? On the other hand, the creator economy is very different. The creator economy gives freedom to the creator. The creator economy also gives more freedom in terms of following passions, So if you see today, people are talking thought leadership, and they have profiles where they could be a coach, they could be a mompreneur, they could be an influencer who's talking about organizational culture. So they're following passions, they are giving content, and that is the creator economy. When you are getting supported and monetized for your creative talent by a very simple principle, it is the demand and the supply side. So attention economy is the demand, and creator economy is what is feeding into it. But we are creator economy first at this moment. Let's talk about experiential content. I talked about AI, AR, and VR a little while back. This is a space where we create more immersive, more engaging experience for the user, which can help you build much stronger connections, of course, between brands and audiences. An important thing that the experiential content also does is that it gives more lever to understand data and insights better. It also has a better loyalty value, because anything interactive is something that you would want to experiment with, as compared to static content. When I say static, it could just be an image. Experiential content, the top of the mind example is the Instagram filters, or the social media filters that we see are being floated across social media and WhatsApp. So what it has done is, one part is increased engagement, as I said. So brands are using it to their advantage for drawing those experiences. Interactive games have become very popular. 360-degree videos of an event. Also, when we're doing live events, sort of bringing in a little bit elements of reality and virtual, is where experiential really drives its charm from. There is also a sharp difference between AR and VR, and I would urge anyone who's in content marketing to be very clear about what is AI, AR, VR, and also machine learning. Virtual reality is a completely stimulated environment where a completely different world or environment which has no connection to the real world is created. You would see this more in gaming. You would also see it in form of virtual events. However, AR is augmented reality. This is when you put in some virtual elements in a already existing real world. This is something you will see in navigation, education, even travel a lot of times. So AR and VR is very important to bifurcate as. What experiential content has also done, apart from giving that strong arm to a marketer, is that it has helped in enabling content creation. Like I gave an example of creation of a presentation. So content generation has become much easier. Editing and proofreading content is also something which is enabled. Personalization is far better. Personalization is the most abused term in marketing and really used like a lot. We used to target audiences basis their demographics. Once upon a time, we moved into psychographics, we moved into neighborhood and pin code, and today it's more than that. Today it's about what I'm consuming on media. Today my profile and persona also involves whom I'm networking with, who's in my circle, who's part of my social media network, and thus what should be served to me. So experiential content helps marketers in a better personalization. Another piece where AI, AR, and VR have come handy is translation and recognition. These things were very complex, especially as part of the agency side, which is we service brands. We had to depend upon a lot of softwares, but today it's a little easier, definitely. Future for brands from here on is that we will see a lot of there is a blurring line between offline and online semantics for the consumer today, and connected events will become a thing. Generative artificial intelligence in art and creative is something that you will be able to use more often. Today, there are generative AI based softwares and apps, a lot in the beta version, but it's about how you can create presentations at the just a second. It's also about how you can create summaries for like big texts through these apps. A lot of you would have also experimented with ChatGPT. That is something that really helps also in a lot when it comes to preliminary or basic functions for creating content. The last piece is this is a very important word, and agile marketing is something that any person who's in content marketing or is trying to understand content economy should be aware of. What does agile means? Agile means fast. In content marketing and digital marketing space, agile also means real time marketing. When you are giving back content to your consumer basis a real time scenario, that is where agile comes into picture. You would see a lot of times brand trolls on Twitter. You'll also see a lot of moment marketing happening around. That is where agile, that is one example of agile marketing. That means that brands and marketers today have to be more flex when it comes to creation of their content plan or marketing plan as compared to the earlier times. From experiential content, I'll give you examples of, so I already talked about Instagram filters. This is just from a visual perspective for you to understand how things are being used when it comes to uh, experience creation. The video that is being played is of a IKEA store and a virtual showroom where users can choose the color of a bookcase or anything in the interior design. They could also play around. They could also give feedback by wearing these the virtual reality headsets. So you should definitely maybe visit and check this out. The third piece that you see here is just a metaverse blob. This is a term which has been used a lot, and a lot of companies are trying hands at creating metaverse realities. These are a couple of examples on experience creation. But one thing is for sure that content creation is democratized. When I say democratized, it means the arms and ammunition are similar for everybody, same for you, same for me. The cost of production for creation or the entry barrier has reduced. You don't have to own very expensive sets, very expensive tools. Technology is definitely making it much easier to create content, and thus quality is the key differentiator as we go ahead. With that, I'll jump to a very important piece, which is what are the key mantras when you want to win when content landscape is changing so much. Taking a cue from the previous slide, quality content creation for relevance is going to be a very important thing. So सबसे पहले the most important thing is mindset shift change. So if there is a traditional marketing mindset in place, it needs a shift to agile. It also needs a shift to understanding tools and technology. Internet is changing daily. What we are consuming today, what we are consuming tomorrow, we don't have any control at. Especially after living in the reality where we no one saw that we'd be locked in at our homes for more than a year. Keep user intent in check. That is the key. User intent will not change. Technology can change, but user intent and purpose, if you have the right target, you have understood what they want, you know where they are, that is very important while creating content and messaging. The second piece is, doesn't surprise, keep up with the technology. For creation of better user experience, this is something that we cannot ignore. Most brands who would want to keep pace with content landscape have to go beyond websites. We're talking communities, we're talking interconnected social media. So be where the consumers are. Use technology to be at the spaces where your consumers are hanging around. Be ahead on the social media curve. Content in social media is something that either by force or by utility, you will have to adopt it. So platform into cohort mapping is very important while using social media. You would have heard of Clubhouse, you would have heard of LinkedIn, Insta, WhatsApp messaging, email marketing. So what kind of social media content marketing is good for my brand? What kind of positioning I would want to give for the same messaging on LinkedIn, which is a professional network, versus Instagram, where the business personality could be very different. It could be more human. It could be more relationship based. Create your own best practices, and consistency is the key. A lot of times when we're working with clients, we see that the activity and the frequency takes a toll on social media. So post and ghost doesn't work. While experimenting with social media, there is a certain amount of consistency required because the audience wants to see if it's the real you and they're talking to a real human or a real brand on the other side that's standing for the purpose that they want to create. The last piece, something I referred to earlier, is Create flex content calendars. Once you have crossed the mindset shift, you have to be ready for change. However, in terms of being flex, something that we shouldn't forget is having content pillars. Let's take an example of Nepa, our firm itself. So, some of our content pillars are we stand for a very strong culture. The second pillar is that we stand for dynamic marketing intelligence in terms of our marketing optimization solutions. And the last piece is we really stand by our values and being very agile. So these three content pillars then are going to be consistently demonstrated in the content that we post out. They cannot change. The medium could, the way we are marketing could, depending upon the internet's reality. However, the content pillars are going to be sacrosanct. And the last is do not fear agile. Agile marketing could be also very nerve wracking when you have to change your marketing plans at the last minute because of internet's reality. It could be a little nerve wracking for sure, but we don't have to fear agile. With so much of creative muscle or content muscle that has been given by tech, this sometimes leads to a lot of creative ideas, sometimes above the norm and sometimes beyond usual. Now, if you talk about technology and content in general, or all the terminologies that I talked about, things change. तो चीजें आती रहती हैं, change होती रहती हैं, but then some brand mantras, some brand tenets are timeless. They will not fail you. The first important piece is consistency. The law of consistency can never fail in marketing. If you are there for the customers and deriving some real value seamlessly over time, brand building is a long-term affair. So consistency in terms of that communication for the customers is very important. The second piece is word. In market research parlance, word of mouth is very important. The kind of top of mind relevance a brand has in a consumer's mind always impacts the imagery, the positioning, the sales, and the conversions. So owning a word in the consumer mind is super, super critical. This is very true for flagship categories. Some categories like say a Maggie that demands the noodles category in terms of top of mind awareness is a fantastic example. There could be more competitors, there could be more variations, but some brands have been ruling categories as far as legacy goes. The third piece is fellowship. What do I mean by fellowship? In immense competition, you would think that collaborating with a competitive brand is not a very good idea. However, in the developing countries like India, we see that categories are being built now and for the future. Some categories are not even existing today. Consumer tech, food tech was not there 5 years back, at least not in that propensity. These categories are built by collaboration. So, in content marketing, it's important that you join hands with competitors to create categories and have meaningful conversations. Create communities first, and then think about value creation in that category or community. It's a very interesting one, but one of my favorites when it comes to killing with content in newer categories. The last piece, which is the combination of two laws in marketing, is contraction and publicity. Contraction never fails. It means when you shrink the focus of the brand and have a very sharp one and you're not everywhere, then a stronger brand gets created. Generally, when you are going to massy, a strong brand communication is not something which is very easy to achieve unless it's a category which is the need or necessity, so to say. So, sharp focus is always equal to a stronger brand. Refer and recommendations. So publicity holds strong. What are people talking about? Who are they telling or becoming advocates for? Am I telling my friend that I used this certain product on Nika? Please go for it. That refer and recommendation is a very strong tool, and that's very organic in terms of creation. And UGC just ties in here the user generated content concept. So those were the brand mantras which are timeless, that have seen and tested time. They have also just been very strong, even though technology could have changed. With that, we come to almost the last segment of our content marketing talk today. What's there in the future? Some of the themes I've already covered in the timeline from 2021, 2019 to 23, but this just brings it all together. A very sharp target group focus. With so much of data on hand, researching is never out of fashion. Understand how different generations behave and consume media. Keep eyes and ears on the market pulse. What are they consuming? What are their social, cultural, or economic attitudes and life cycles? We recently were very intrigued about studying Generation Alpha and Generation Z. It's a millennial agency that we have, but it was very important to understand the future generations who would be consuming, working at workplaces, and creating these categories that don't exist today. That's the future. But seeing the patterns and understanding them both quantitative and qualitatively has helped us advise clients in the right direction. So, sharp target group focus is of essence when it comes to the right kind of communication. Video, everything. We have already crossed that mile in going live, going for webinars, consuming and being lurkers in terms of the short form that we are consuming today, previously TikTok, or today Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. Both short form and video, everything is going to rule content space for a very, very long time. A lot of different other kind of apps have arrived on the content scene, and they have also sort of evaporated very quickly. But this will require mindset shift in organizations and brand teams. The right video fitment is necessary. Right voice is necessary. Sometimes we go after the trends and try and copy them and create videos that might not be relevant to our brand's purpose or brand's values. Dancing to the tune of some random Instagram reel might not be in line with the kind of brand that you are creating, maybe with a larger and more meaningful purpose. So, what do you use in terms of tools as part of your video content is supremely important. Maybe you want to take a educator mode, maybe you want to take a thought leadership mode in terms of creating that right video. Right platforms for promotion is also very important when it comes to video. Repurposing legacy, be it an existing brand or an old brand, there's always some form of content that has already been created as part of our brand charters, in our old file somewhere. So this is a good time to repurpose legacy and create video formats of that very valuable content that you would be having. Third, this is again something that is agnostic to generations, agnostic to technology, agnostic to a creator economy or attention economy, authenticity and purpose. Today, the consumers can see through FAF. They can see through if you are not walking the talk. The most popular kind of content is today funny and interactive. A lot of research has been done on how these two genres are the most workable form of content. A lot of brands sometimes use them but forget authenticity. So keeping brand identity in check is a super critical. You would have seen a lot of brands showing BTS or behind the scenes. This is why they would want to show what's happening on ground. I was recently going through one of the brand's recent campaign that was all about a live streaming of how they are manufacturing dosas in their plant. And this is something that everyone could just see live on Instagram and other social media handles. And that was behind the scenes. That was a brand coming up front and saying that this is how we create our products. Brand values are very are the key. I've talked enough about it, and you have to remember it has to be relatable. What kind of protagonist you're using, who is your ambassador. We're also seeing that people don't believe in only big celebrities, people believe in relatable characters. People believe, the consumers believe in a relatable language. We've also seen content seeing a life cycle of extremely English content in like much earlier to Hindi or English, and then coming into Hindi, now regional. So we're seeing a pattern where the relatability in terms of content also differs by zones and neighborhoods today in India and beyond. The last piece is quality user generated content. Every brand today has to think like a publisher, because what does a publisher do? Publisher creates unique content, very relatable, almost every day. This is not something most brands are used to. So thinking like a publisher is the first thing when you are going with the content marketing. Users and your consumers are your best ambassadors. There is no better ambassador. You might want to spend so much of money on a big celebrity, but if your user and consumers are giving you the right kind of content that tells why anyone should trust your brand or consider it or purchase it for that matter, you have got your best ambassador on hand. With that, I'll come to one of the truth bombs of content industry. When creating content, be the best answer on the internet. This very clearly defined. It's one of my favorite quotes on content. If you are able to deliver the best message on internet for a particular question or a brand vision, you have done your job in terms of creation of content. I was also reading somewhere that we've spoken that content is king, but content actually is kingdom. It's up to you how you create it. It's up to you how you would want to expand it for your brand's vision. With that, that's a close on the chapter on creator economy. You can find me for more questions and anything on content on different social media handles, but I can take questions on the topic now if there are in the panel.
Thank you so much, Isha. Absolutely, very interesting. I think it's just like you rightly said, it's just exploding. I think the years to come, we'll see
Yes.
maybe a different avatars of it. I think only thing is I think the development cycles are absolutely shrinking. You know what it used to take maybe about a decade and above. I think now we're getting to see in just about a few months or maybe just about.
Yes.
We have a first question from Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, and
Okay.
this question is "Jo dikta hai, wo bikta hai."
Uh-huh.
Keeping this tagline in mind, every company makes a marketing plan for its product. I believe the consumer is divided into a few parts: brand name, product quality, and marketing of both. What should be the context for the new company so that it reaches the consumer in less time? Thank you, Sanjeev.
Okay. So if I've understood the question correctly, it's how to reach the consumer correctly, right?
Yeah, what should be the context for the new company so that it reaches the consumers in less time? Do
Got
you
it.
think? Yeah.
So the fastest way of reaching the consumer today would be social media. Has to be it. It can't be your emails. It can't be websites. The name, I would say yes. I mean, one would say what lies in a name, but that still holds true. The name is super critical. But as far as you've got your reach covered, and you have partnered with the right kind of people on social media, I feel that's the fastest method in terms of reaching the consumer today for a new company, because that sort of media is less expensive. You don't have to burn that media inventory on television and other expensive mediums. So definitely that would be my first recommendation.
Great. So, and there are two related questions, Isha. One is about the fact that I think a company like GE, has created literally a content factory, that is widely reported for its BTB. And then, the author actually talks about five different things that they've done. So, therefore, of course, it is largely deployed for BTP, but I'm sure they must be doing for others as well, right? But the point is that. I mean, is it going to be the norm for every company where they start having their own in-house or
And
license?
that's a good question.
Exactly. That's one question that I have. Maybe let's have this one, and then maybe I'll go with the next one
Sure.
later on.
I feel that's so relevant a question, and as I said, I was reading somewhere that either by choice or by force, most brands will have to enter into content. And I think fast reaching a space where content could be your best arm in terms of sending the kind of PR you would want directly and not depending upon agencies and creation of very fancy design led marketing lingo. So I feel that an in-house content team or an in-house content writer cohort, someone who's very well versed with the brand propositions and can effectively create a persona for social media and other verticals, is something that will become the norm. I'm already seeing it. We have seen it for ourselves. We are a market research firm. We have absolute no relation to content creation. We
Mm.
advise people on content. We advise people in terms of testing their scripts. And here is a live example, because we've been in existence for the last 10 years in India. And one of the best mediums for us to reach in terms of thought leadership was, okay, why don't we start creating our own thought leadership series as
Exactly.
video format? We entered creation of a podcast, something that was not thought upon in a market research or consumer science world, which is very traditionally run when it comes to marketing. But that has been brilliant because we are on the hunt of making it more massy, for us to reach the right kind of market research enthusiasts, maybe students fraternity, also sort of showcase the kind of partners and clients that we are working with. So here's a clear B2B example of someone who's not selling their services through content, but is using it for thought leadership.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think that's where the answer is. We are reaching that time when we will have a content factory internally sitting for most brands. If not, not necessarily a force fitment, but wherever possible, yes.
Absolutely. Now, related again, like I was telling you, the related question would be, I think, very larger perspective, Isha, is that I think we have seen some of the best companies in the world, right? Especially companies like PNG, in the HUL, Unilever, where I mean, for all of their marketing campaigns, all of their marketing campaigns have been thoroughly, were loaded in research, actually field research, and they used to spend quite a lot of money and the time and things like that. So from that age, where it was completely every
Yeah.
content, right? It was loaded with research, and they used to spend loads of money on that, right? For example, you look at any brand that you can in PNG, right? Or for every brand, there is a thorough research, or even like a KitKat, or I mean other companies as well. But I think right now what you get to see is that because of in the rush to create that very quote unquote engaging content,
Uh-huh.
are
Yes.
are we losing the sight of that, the thoroughbred research? That's one question, right? And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, is there any possibility that people might start discounting the importance of the content, because they know for sure that this content has been generated
Yes.
just like that, vis-a-vis what it is to take time, because then then the kind of the perception, not perception alone, but I would say rightly so, for the fact that people used to think, for example, let's say we have seen you know um, the Fevicol's advertisement, right? The how became it popular it became, but again that has come out of a very beautiful insight that these guys have done it. We're talking to people and things like that. So how do you contrast that? One is the ease of content, access to the content, and people are just making. And you said you just see. I mean, that's one part of it, but other part is that somewhere, like you also said, that repurpose the legacy. But I think one of the the ways to repurpose is, should we actually start propagating it, or should we say that hang on, I think there's a better way of
Yeah, I
doing
get it. Yeah. Actually, both questions are so like deep, first of all, in terms of today's relevance. I'll take the first one. Your question on market research or deeper market research being the norm
it.
so far for very big majors that you mentioned. I would say that it still is. Market research still continues to be a very important part in terms of journeys of creation of brands. And there is a level of coexistence in terms of the engaging content creation or the tools which are already available on the internet versus understanding consumers. When it comes to current market entrants or the legacy players across FMCG and media, we have seen that they still do the traditional research. And as a research company, we also just use tools to our advantage. However, when it comes to sampling, when it comes to being understanding your community very well through traditional methods, that continues to exist. However, conversations today are not just offline. Conversations are happening online, conversations are happening on social media, conversations are happening in comments of the YouTube channel of maybe a PNG and HUL, which also is a data mine, right? So what it has done both for the researcher fraternity and the brands is it has already given a base level awareness on information to begin with, for which maybe previously you would do like a listing study, for which maybe previously you do like a landscape study. So the landscape is here, so you have a start, you have a head start in understanding a category, and then you go deeper, like more nuanced question in terms of what cohort to go for, what is the size of my target audience, so what media, what is the ROI. Those answers cannot be given unfortunately by the internet, where market research will continue to coexist. So I think it's more about coexistence rather than a separation of the engaging and research world. And it also is very dependent on the philosophy of the market research and marketing today between brands and other companies. So
Absolutely.
that's one part. The second part you mentioned was about the efficacy of content, right? You mentioned
Yeah,
Fevicol.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that also is not really going to die. The quality of ideas today, I feel, are much better. We also have to be very cognizant of the fact that we have been exposed to so much of information in the
Mhm.
last few years. That means there has been a certain kind of evolution in terms of idea generation also, for us, as a community, as a species, I would say. And thus the quality and genesis is now not related to the time that you take to get that idea. It's actually about the quality of idea which could happen at the spur of the moment.
Absolutely.
So in that ways, it has democratized the idea creation or the idea cycle, and it has benefited. Though yes, I mean, one would also conquer that the days that marketing has seen in terms of some amazing campaigns and the thought process and the eureka moments is something that a lot of marketers miss, for
Exactly.
sure. That's something that used to give a rush, that used to, I mean, the Bajaj campaign and the
Mhm.
times that we've lived, those of course are legacy times that are now more like for the nostalgia, and now it's more about the quality, and it's very time agnostic, I would say.
Thank you. And we have probably the last question for today evening,
So,
and that is from Mr. Anand Jaiswal. And his
mhm.
question is, can you elaborate how podcast is growing 2x, how audio field is growing, whereas video content is more attractive? Thank you,
Right.
Anand.
Yeah, that's a very good question as well. So the 2x piece that I spoke about, we're talking about 200, close to 250 million podcast users 5 years back, which are now doubled, which is close to 450 or 500 million. I'm talking global numbers. And video and audio, they serve very different purposes, Anand. Which is, for video content, you would see that sometimes there's a little bit of flirting around that happens. You watch short form content and then you move on to something that's also how what the algorithm is feeding you on most social media channels. So there's a little bit of skip, hop, and jump that happens on video. It of course is engaging. We've seen that audio is far more engaging when it comes to loyalty.
Mhm.
The kind of spots where you can consume audio are also better. When I say spots, like if you're going for your run, you're exercising, you are traveling by car, imagine this actually becomes the most preferred medium to hop onto. Audio also has more intent, almost like a book, not necessarily somewhere you are being fed an idea as part of content, because video somewhere is though on demand but is giving you a perspective of the protagonist. It doesn't channelize the thought process as much as a audio format would. The target group for both is very different. We've seen audio catching up a whole lot more with millennials. We have seen it with working professionals.
Yeah.
Video is very Gen Z, very Gen Alpha, still younger, but there's also a difference in terms of target group. So it's all about how you would want to position both the formats for yourself. If you are in a more gray matter world like ours, I mean, audio becomes like a first choice for us to convey a lot with a more engaged and niche audience. Video will of course be more massy. For podcast, you'll have much, or a audio format, you'll have much sharper focus. You would be speaking only to marketing. You would be speaking only to maybe uh, a group of bunch who's enthusiastic about food. So it's a much sharper focus when it comes to audio, and both serve very different brand purposes and different consumer needs, so to say.
Thank you so much, Isha, and appreciate your time, especially on Saturday evening. Absolutely interesting, the
Thank you.
perspective
My
you shared.
pleasure.
I
Yes.
think the like I was telling some time back, I think that the presentation looks very simple and very short, but I think the canvas that each one of the slides has presented is phenomenal. I think that is going to be the almost like a defining part of the content marketing itself, and the kind of changes that are taking place as well are yet to take place. But in the light of chat GPT and things like that, the only thing is the larger thing that the dialogue that I get to hear or get to read is that the credibility of it. That's something I was asking, right? In the sense that
Yes.
because credibility in the sense not about the credibility of the the power of the algorithm and things like that. It's not about it. Maybe technologically it's a high prowess, but the point is that kind of thing that people used to appreciate for the human ingenuity, when people actually create by themselves, then depending on the the
The
algorithm.
softwares, yes, yes.
Exactly.
I
I
mean,
think
see, there's also this thing, right? You could have all the best tools, but the quality of output one individual would create using them versus the other is always going to differ. So it's about actual intelligence over artificial intelligence always.
exactly, and also maybe how soon are we going to hit the convergence? Because the moment, because the same, the technology, it can definitely have, it cannot have maybe infinite kind of options, right? But
Yeah.
maybe, yeah, but maybe we are not hoping, but yeah, maybe it should happen, and that is we press the button of the convergence, and everything looks almost similar kind of thing.
Yes.
Actually, and the larger issue is that when it has a possibility of hurting the what to say, religious or cultural sentiments of different people, because the somebody created, and then let's say it's being deployed in Argentina or Brazil or India or maybe Chile, or it's in New Zealand. I mean, even simple things, some of these words have a different cultural context, right? So
Yes.
therefore, and
Yes.
how those things are going to be, and even simple like diverse, right? Now diverse can be interpreted and maybe taken, but in a different context it can be absolutely serious kind of affair.
Yes.
But nevertheless, like you rightly said, it's a phenomenal, I think, the kind of the canvas that represented the and the kind of changes that are taking place. Thank you so much once again from all of us and
Thank you
from
so
all of our
much.
participants, Isha. I look
Yeah.
forward to hosting you for maybe, I think, next avatar of content marketing that's going to shape up in the years to come.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Isha. Thank you so much.
Thanks.